Good afternoon and welcome to the enclosure. Today is for me, very exciting day. I've been looking forward to this day for, probably about 6 months when I first got interested in this. Today's the day that I have received my Leviton Load Center. And this is not just your average load center. This is a smart load center. It connects to the internet and your Wi-Fi and your local area network, and allows you to monitor the power consumption by circuit breaker as long as you have a smart circuit breaker in a slot. It allows you to monitor the status of that circuit breaker, whether it's on, off, or tripped, and it allows you to remotely trip the circuit breaker if there's for some reason a safety concern. Obviously it doesn't allow you to reset the circuit breaker. You need to be on site for that for obvious safety reasons, but it's going to allow me to monitor our energy use, cut down where we see we can cut down, and going forward also allow me to do various science labs or demonstration labs where, for instance, what's the most efficient way to boil water? Kettle, electric cooktop, a microwave, maybe a gas burner if I can figure out how to do a remote gas burner because I don't have gas coming inside the house, and the magnetic version, which is induction. So without further ado, let's open this up and see what we've got. I did end up getting a very large number of smart breakers to allow maximum flexibility and monitoring down the road. It's obviously there's a premium for this type of technology. It's not just your standard flick on and off, but it, in my view, is going to be worth it. So we've got a lot of boxes. So this is a 66 breaker panel. Code requires you to leave 2 breakers, and I've got a full 64 circuits coming into this panel. In fact, I had to work pretty hard on paring it down to 64 circuits coming into the panel. The reason I want it all into the main panel is because this is going to be fed directly by the generator. I'm going to have a Generac 22 kilowatt generator that then feeds a transfer switch, a service rated transfer switch. So in other words, it can be the first device on the line coming from your meter, and then that is going to feed this panel, and that's going to allow me to have not just emergency circuits on the generator, but the vast majority of the house, my internet, computers, all the TVs, cable, all that kind of stuff. I do have 2 sub panels. One is for woodworking shop, one is for metalworking shop. Those will be shed by another device from, I think I've shown it to you earlier, PSP products. And once it senses that we're on generator, it will automatically turn off all loads on those 2 panels. But most of it is coming to this main distribution panel. So we've got a whole whack of breakers here, and a lot of these are smart. Some of them are just standard, and I'll try to show you the difference between a standard and a smart. I think the smart ones generally all have blue labeling on them, and the standard ones don't. They just have black and white labeling. So we've got a whole whack of breakers here, and I'll unload everything and then I will open some up. 2 pole, single pole, does it all. For the breakers, I believe it's above 30 amp. The smart technology is not available. They still have energy consumption monitoring by means of CT rings that get connected to a smart breaker. Now I had to give up some functionality, and I'm going to have to monitor some of the stuff at my sub-panel level, because I just didn't have enough spots to waste one on a set of CT rings. So I'm looking for a few components here. Now there is a few components that are back ordered, but I thought that the device that actually allows you to connect to the internet, I thought that was included. So that might be in the panel box. These seem to all be breakers. So let's just open up the first one here. We've got it's an LB620-MB, which means that it's a 2-pole 15 amp smart breaker. And this one is just standard. It doesn't have any GFCI or arc fault. They do have they have breakers that have both technologies in them, the arc fault and the GFCI, and they can be smart or non-smart. So a lot of options that are available. And basically this is it. Now what you will see, there's no place to put wires on this. Conductors do not, on this panel, conductors don't attach to the breakers directly. And this makes it a much easier and faster to wire up the breaker panel. Basically, you're bringing it to the panel enclosure, your various circuits, you're going to wire into the panel enclosure, and then it's not live until you snap a bracket into place, or sorry, a breaker into the bracket. So I mean, otherwise they look pretty basic. The nice feature is you don't have an up and down toggle. It's just sort of a press in and out, which is kind of cool. And I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but there's a green bar showing it's on and a red bar showing that it's off. So that's a 2-pole, as I said, a 2-pole 15 amp. Let's see what else we've got. And you know it's smart because it has an LED and a little Wi-Fi signal. And the LED changes color depending on the status of the breaker, which is a neat feature. Let's open up a smart one, a non-smart one. Let's see, I think I had a 2-pole. So here it's an LB620-GF. That means it is a 2-pole, 20 amp ground fault breaker. And again, no conductors get attached to the breaker itself. And instead of it having the Wi-Fi signal, it just has a little GF beside the LED. And again, the LED changes color depending on the status of the breaker. And again, we have our little thumb toggle. Okay, so that you can see I've got a lot of work ahead of me putting these all in. I have, since your last visit, I have finished the first floor and the second floor main plug circuits. So anything that's not, say, a dedicated, say, fridge or stove, any of the dedicated circuits that only have one device, one receptacle, one plug, whatever, one box on it, all of the general plug circuits have been finished on both floors. And it actually went quite quickly, and I'm quite pleased with the progress. I'm waiting on my inspector for some information on class 1 circuits. So that would be DC, 24 volt DC circuits that are in excess of, I think it's 96 watts, are considered class 1. So I'm waiting on some clarification from him on that, and then I can start my light circuits. But let's put these away because these are the boring parts. The interesting part is the panel itself. Okay, so now we will open this up. The goods came from, I believe it was Quebec that they came through. Point Claire, Quebec City, or Quebec, Point Claire, Quebec. And it took a little while to get them. It's not a product that, it's at the very beginning of its market adoption. So it's not stocked at a lot of places. But I think it will be a sign of the future in any energy efficient home where the measurement of your energy use in order to curb your energy consumption is going to be a requirement. And I think more and more builders and more consumers are going to be wanting that technology. So the exciting part, let's see what we got in here. You're going to see in a sec that this is, like I said, no ordinary panel. It's somewhat a work of art. And I don't mean that in a silly way. It does not have your typical gross tan gray color to it. It's bright white. And you can even show it off, which I'm going to be doing, and get a clear door so that you can see the status of all of your breakers, which is quite phenomenal. So it's a heavy sucker. I don't know exactly how heavy it is, but I would not want this being any heavier and have to lift it myself. If I had somebody on site, I would have definitely had help bringing it in. So let's just put some stuff aside here. First thing we're going to obviously see here is the cover panel. So this is the cover panel. Isn't that impressive? So this, let's see how tall it is compared to me. So it's a good 4 feet tall. I'm 6'1". So it's going to be something to look at. Unfortunately, it's in the basement. I would have loved to have had this someplace on the main floor for guests to look at, but I don't have any place that is suitable. I don't have any walls suitable for that kind of number of conductors going through it. It is a metal. It feels almost like plastic in the texture, but it is a metal, and it's actually a really nice finish. Open up the door, and obviously you're going to have full access. But with the door closed, you're still going to be able to see the status of all your breakers. So that is that's impressive. And that also shows I have a lot of work ahead of me. Although I've finished the plug circuits, I have not done any of the final runs back to panel on those circuits. You see, that was just the box for that. Okay. So, we've got some ground bonding bars. Let's see if I can, like I said, this is not a light box. There is a lot of metal in this. Oh. So there we have it. Let me just make sure you can see the whole bit. Yeah, basically. I believe it can be in either orientation with the main up or down. I haven't decided yet which way I'm going to do mine, but there's 66 slots. It doesn't have, some of the manufacturers have the ability to put 2 circuits, specifically 15 amp circuits in one slot. They're sort of mini half breakers. One breaker will have 2 toggles on it for 2 circuits. It doesn't have that ability. So your 2-pole breakers take a full 2 slots up, and each of the single pole breakers take a full slot up, as I'll show you. See if this stands, and it does. And we'll just snap in a breaker. So basically, you're going to be bringing your hots into the copper colored on each circuit, and you're going to be bringing your neutral or your white to the black on each circuit. And I guess when you're doing 2-pole, you're going to be bringing black to one of the copper, and the red will have to go to the neutral. If that is not the case, I will put a note on the video, but I'm pretty sure that's the only way that this can be done. And I suspect that that's what's going to be done. And then you're just bringing your bare ground, or bonding, to each of the bars here. Now, I do not see the smart device that allows you to connect to the internet, so I suspect that must be one of the back-ordered items. Let me just confirm that. Yes, it is. The Smart Data Hub is one of the back-ordered items. I also have 3 smart 15 amp breakers that are back-ordered, but I can make do without those. So let's just see how easy it is to put one of these in, and then we'll call it a day. So when you're ready to energize a circuit, you've got the conductors all in place. You would just come, and I haven't done this before, so bear with me if I don't do it right the first time. Let's see here. That's it. Simple as that. And to get it out, simple as that. Pretty cool. It actually goes in a lot easier than most of the breakers, circuit breakers that I've installed in the past, like the square Ds and stuff like that. So that is pretty cool. Basically, it's getting I believe it's getting the neutral from the center and the hots from here, or it might be vice versa. I'm not sure which it is. I think these are the hot tabs on this side and the neutrals in the center. But again, if that's not the case, I'll put a note on the video. So it's almost like Christmas here. I've been very much looking forward to getting this. I had approached Leviton, I think late August of last year, seeing if they might be interested in becoming a partial sponsor on the project. And I'm thrilled to announce that they are, that they have helped me out with this a bit. And I'm very appreciative. It's allowing me to have what I consider a best practice panel at a price I can afford. Being somebody who's a cheap German building his own house but wants the best. I look forward to installing it and running the circuits. I will obviously have some time-lapse video on that. When I start putting in the actual circuit breakers and energizing the circuits, I'll probably do a live video on that as well. But that's it for now. I want to thank our sponsors. So Rod Gilderdale, he is the territory manager for the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island, is the one who made this all possible. I want to thank Rod very much. He's been most gracious and most patient with me as I had all my questions and as I changed my quantities because I was trying to fit as much in this panel as opposed to sub panels as possible. And as I got clarification on what the requirements were for some of the other components, like the PSP load shedding panels, I thought that they needed one 2-pole breaker for the two sub-panels that it's shedding, but they need a 2-pole breaker per sub-panel. So there's 2 sets of relays. Each relay needs its own 2-pole breaker. So I had the unpleasant task of trying to find a place for another 2 circuits worth of stuff. And fortunately, I had some that I had dedicated for itself, like I had my audio-visual in the TV room. I had a dedicated 20-amp breaker just for those 2 plugs, and I ended up having to steal that and use it for another 10 plugs on top of that. I want to also thank Andrew McLeod at Leviton. He was one of the people who early on was helping me figure out what they could do as far as the panels that were available, and expressed interest in the project, came out to the site and visited, and had a good conversation. And then I also want to thank the chaps at Ecol Electric who agreed to let this all happen through their facility. So Jay and Chad over at Ecol at First and Boundary, thank you very much. And that's it. So as I said, we've been working on the electrical plugs. I'm looking forward to finishing it. It's gone well. I have now just today received the final fittings for the shower. So that's taken 6+ weeks, 7 weeks to get that, and it's hard to. What I've basically found on this project almost the entire way is that what you learn in building science school about doing things best practices, they tend to be commercial of nature. In other words, commercial style of construction. And I don't have any commercial wholesalers that I know. I'm dealing with the residential wholesalers like Bartles and Gibson, Ecol for the HVAC, or Eco as opposed to Ecol for electric. Westburn for my electric is who I dealt with. Standard building supplies, that kind of thing. And the products that are recommended in best practices have not been readily available in your residential market. And so for instance, on the shower, I've shown you before, I've got the body jets, and I'm going to have this loop going around. It's called a balancing loop, so that you've got even pressure to all of the jets. There's a lot. If I was doing it via fittings, I'd have 45s everywhere, because I'd have to be bumping out to go over top of the pipes coming into all the valves and whatnot. And then there's areas where I had originally intended to do bent 3/4 copper pipe, but the benders don't really do compound bends where you've got going different directions. And so I wanted to get some long radius copper elbows, readily available in the States. You can get them online in the States. But in Canada, nobody has them, nobody's heard of them. And when you ask for them by part number and by manufacturer, it takes absolutely forever to get a quote and then get the goods. So there has been a lot of pushback, I wouldn't say pushback, but delays induced by the fact that I want to do things, I want to demonstrate the best way of doing something. Maybe it doesn't make a huge difference in the end, but I still want to demonstrate it as best practice. And there's been a lot of delays as a result, and I'm paying the price because of not being able to move as fast on certain things. But because I am only one person and I'm doing absolutely every trade myself. It just means that I switch gears. So I lose a little bit of efficiency as I move from one trade to the other and get my tools in place and all that kind of stuff. But in the end, it hasn't affected me too badly. But in a normal residential construction setting, the builders would just say, screw it, we're not going to bother with that, we're just going to do what everybody else does. For instance, in the electrical, I wanted for my plug circuits, which you're pushing stuff in and out of the receptacle constantly, I wanted metal boxes. Well, nobody uses metal boxes anymore. They're all plastic. And so they were special order, which I was quite flummoxed at, because they were pretty standard even, I think, 5 years ago. But now, because they're just a fraction of $1 less, people are going with the plastic. And it's been frustrating, is I guess what I'm saying. But enough of that. It's a happy day today. I've got my panel. I'm thrilled. And I very much look forward to playing with it once it's going in operation, and I can see what the current going through everything is, and how much I'm very interested to see how much my groundwater sump pump is drawing, how much energy that's costing me. But that's all for a different day. I want to thank you for visiting, and we will talk again soon. Take care.